Musk says he bought Twitter to preserve it as a haven for free speech, but last week's release of internal debate and discourse at Twitter HQ also has a lot of people talking. So we're going to talk about it tonight. Young Voices contributor James Chernowski is here in studio with me up late on the Final Five to talk about it. We've never had you in studio for the Final Five.
No, you haven't. It's great to be here.
It's the first time not to see you through a Zoom window here.
I know, it's great.
So Friday night, you reached out to me. There was a lot of talk about what was going on with this release here. So a lot of people wanted to know what happened behind closed doors at Twitter during the run-up to the 2020 election, and what did we learn? What did you see last week?
Yeah, so I think that when you're looking at the Twitter files, what you see is actually a really interesting case of a company that was struggling with figuring out how to handle what was admittedly a very controversial piece of news when it came to the Hunter Biden laptop story. And despite the claims of it being censored and the aggressive action that they took underneath what was admittedly a flawed policy, at the end of the day, that's not exactly what it looked like behind closed doors. You did have employees actively questioning what was going on and whether or not this policy was the right thing to do and whether or not they should keep it up. And even Representative Rokana, to his credit, reached out to the company and was wondering whether or not this decision violated First Amendment principles. So there's actually a lot of really interesting questions going on here. So
based on what a lot of the data that came out from this laptop that many media outlets had said was Russian disinformation, and later on you had the New York Times and other publications saying it was right, we were wrong, it was right, it was real. There was a lot of debate as to whether or not Twitter, this violated what their hacked documents policy or something along those lines.
Yeah, so the policy in question was on their hacked materials policy, and this is a protective measure that came out as a result of between the 2016 election and the 2017 election, where you saw hacked materials in France's election. And these companies are under an immense amount of pressure because when you see Russian interference claims being made during 2016, when you see hacked materials during France's election, it puts you on edge. You want to foster a good community, and you want to make sure that good information is getting out to your users.
Yeah.
And it puts them in an impossible place because you're always going to be in a position where everybody's angry at you no matter what.
Well, and that clearly was the case with Twitter, because there's been this idea that Twitter, based on how it would prevent people from sharing the Hunter Biden laptop story, that there was some sort of political bias at play. And I think when you look at the number of accounts that have been suspended, many of them have been unsuspended under the Elon Musk regime here. I think a lot of people are looking at it as a new page for Twitter. Does this herald a new era for the website, or is it still kind of a murky situation?
I think it's murky right now, and I think that that's what Elon Musk is trying to do. I think he hopes that by going through this process with the Twitter files, that he can basically turn the page and set the company anew and make it right by his standards. So that'll be something that'll be interesting and worth monitoring looking forward. But again, like when you're talking about the censorship claims and people getting banned, those individual decisions were wrong. The CEO of the company at the time, Jack Dorsey, admitted that that was a wrong decision. And at the end of the day, I think it's important to recognize that if the attempt was censorship, which is the claim that some make, they did a horrible job at it, because when you look at web traffic, after they took the actions that they did, the story blew up, and it became a Streisand effect. It became much more than it ever needed to be.
And the Streisand effect, it was what? Just so people know, years ago, she wanted to have all these pictures of her home removed from publication, and obviously people were suddenly interested in it more so than ever. So just for people who maybe not be a Babs fan watching the show tonight. I want your take, though, as somebody who's been a tech observer, and we've had you on to talk about so many different issues in the past. I mean, has the way that you've approached Twitter, or that you've used Twitter, has that changed, or have you noticed any change in how it functions over the last couple of weeks and months?
Yeah, I think right now the company, because it's going through a transition with so many people departing, there's certainly some technical glitches that are going on right now. In terms of how I use Twitter, it doesn't change at all. I don't even think it's changed in terms of how I've seen you use Twitter, or many of the mainstream users that have been there this whole time, which is why I've always been very confident that the long-term future of Twitter is still pretty bright. I'm very confident that Elon Musk can get this company back on track and in the right direction.
Do you think, though, as it's rolled out, because I know there were people thinking doom and gloom scenarios, that, oh, this is the last 24 hours for Twitter, all the engineers have left. There have been some major missteps, and I think the verification process, which, as he learned, people were coming up with fake Tesla accounts, and there were fake Joe Biden accounts, and I mean, it was a very rocky rollout. Is there a way that you can right that ship, or is the verification effort sort of gone by the wayside?
I think that it's something that he's going to try to figure out to make it work with his principles, because he wants to democratize that blue check one way or another.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're going to have to monitor looking forward. But to your point, it is very alarming, and I'm sure advertisers are watching closely, because they don't want another Eli Lilly situation popping up, where the insulin post was saying that it's going to be free and it cost the company millions of dollars on the stock exchange as a result of that.
Yeah, and a lot of us, a lot of people who use it, I've had the blue check mark. It's a process where you have to show them your ID at one point. At least when I got the blue check mark, it was important for a lot of people. But the question is that a lot of people like myself who have them, is it worth something paying the extra money a month to maintain that? I think right now, for the time being, sure, I think it was cost me $5 for Twitter Blue before. Now it's up to $8 here. But that seems to be the aim to make some revenue here, because Twitter has lost a lot of money over the years.
Oh, absolutely. And certainly in that transition to Elon Musk's ownership, he has lost more money with Twitter because advertisers are a little skittish with the current prospects.
Yeah.
And I think that part of his theory is that if he can go and increase the number of subscribers, it can insulate him from some of that pressure that comes when advertisers come to him and complain about certain decisions or certain things that they see happening on the platform. And he hopes that if that happens, that he can go and promote a more open platform that encourages more speech overall.
Well, I know we're going to watch this one very carefully, and you and I will be tweeting back and forth about it as long as Twitter's away. That's James Chernowski. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for coming in tonight. Absolutely. It's always much better when you're talking in person. And for you at home, the Final Five is back right after this.